Good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition, this week's edition of Cult Classic Movies. This week we delve back 17 years back into the vault as we look back, and this time a real comedy is the theme of tonight's show, and we look back at a comedy gold sort of movie back in 2003. The movie was National Security. It featured the one and only Martin Lawrence, Steve Zahn, Robinne Lee, Colm Feore, Eric Roberts, and our special guest this evening, the one and only Bill Duke. Bill, before I talk to you about your character, Lieutenant Washington, and about a bit about national security, 17 years, does it almost feel that long since you were beside Steve Zahn and Martin Lawrence shooting national security? And did you think 17 years later we'd be still talking about this movie?
No, and I had no idea. I was glad to be a part of it with the great cast and director, and I thought it was a wonderful script. It had comedy, but also was relevant to the time in terms of police and all that stuff. So I just love the idea and the vision, and I think it's lasting because it still has relevance.
I suppose, Bill, the one thing about a comedy movie, and I suppose you've been involved in lots of movies and projects, is that it can make you laugh once you see it the first time. But once you see it the fifth or the sixth time, or if you haven't seen it or 6 or 7 months or even a year and you watch it again, it still makes you laugh. And that's the real test of a real good movie, is that if you see it the second or the third time and there's still bits and scenes and it still makes you laugh. And that was very much the case. There was certain iconic moments in national security that just brought everyone to the point of cracking up.
Yeah, I there's 2 scenes, of course. I enjoyed. One is Selfish, but the first one and the opening, I mean, the Bumblebee scene, that will go down as a classic scene, I think, forever. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's like, there's this Bumblebee, but when they videotape it, it seems like police brutality because he's behind the car, his legs kick up in the air. It's like it's really funny, but it's relevant to the time because black men were getting beaten by the police, etc. So you think it's something that is really happening, but at the same time, it's because a bumblebee is attacking him, and the cop is trying to kill the bumblebee. So it's I think it was a great vision and idea. And the second one for me is the end when I'm eating the potato chip, and I won't give Martin Lawrence a part of my potato chip. So that was great for me also.
Yeah, and I suppose, Bill, I suppose this is what I just say. It's like a Shakespearean sort of tragic comedy, the life story of Hank Rafferty, and you go for being he's sort of best buddy, he's right man, thinking he's the scum of the earth, into reliving and sort of the redemption of this sort of character, and all of a sudden he's your best friend again, and through his darkest hour, all his friends, everything he knows is turned his back on him.
Yes, it's how can I say? Most good films have 2 things. One is the story arc, right? And you can follow the story, and you're fascinated by the story. But what this film had is what most great films have. It also had character arcs, the beginning, middle, and end of a character. So even though you're laughing, you're caring about the character at the same time. Does that make any sense?
And I suppose, Bill, in terms of national security, how did the opportunity come about for you to get involved in the terms of the project? I know it's a long time ago and you've been involved in several projects. Was it someone sort of your agent that came to you and say, listen, they want you to, they've got a role for you in this particular movie? Did you know who was going to be involved at that sort of stage? Were you one of the first people cast for the movie?
Yeah, my agent came to me and I was offered the part, and when I saw who was in it, I wanted to do it because I was a great fan of Martin Lawrence and some of the other actors in it. So I wanted to be and the script was a great script, so I just wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I suppose, in Bill, I suppose in terms of duo, in terms of you couldn't get two very different characters in Steve Zahn and Martin Lawrence in terms of their characters.
Right.
You have
Right.
you have Wyoming, Arizona type of cop, this sort of mild mannered sort of type of Hank that doesn't say much, very much by the law, very much a country type, folk type of character. And then you have Martin Lawrence's character Earl, who you just thinks he's very much into. He looks like a New York City type guy, a Philadelphia type guy. It's almost like two different worlds sort of put together. But the irony is the things that Earl finds intriguing, like the whole notion of interracial couples and all that sort of stuff. It's sort of a funny sort of twist in terms of that as well, in terms of Hank is not all what he made out or what he seems to be either.
Yeah, but you know what was great about the film is it took a lot of chances. It wasn't just a safe little funny comedy. It dealt with issues from race to, you know, police, issues at the time with the Black community. It dealt with a lot of things, but it put within a comic context. And that's not easy to do. And but you had great actors and what? Pardon me?
Yeah, you mentioned that, and you said that's very true. And one thing about national security, it makes you laugh, but it doesn't really offend anyone either. No one gets a sense of anyone's being offended in the movie at all.
Well, it made you laugh and think at the same time. That's rare. You know what I'm saying?
And Bill, in terms of some of those scenes, I think one of the most memorable scenes in terms of your character was the shootout at the end, in terms of the mountain scene and the bridge sort of scene. And even though that's supposed to be in sort of California, is it, dare I say, was that shot out in Mississippi or Missouri or somewhere?
I forgot the exact location, to be honest with you, but it's supposed to be California, yes.
And I suppose, Bill, in terms of your sort of character, Lieutenant sort of Washington, he strikes me as a very sort of straight sort of character. What he sees between his own eyes is what he believes. So if he sees something, he believes it. If he doesn't see it, he doesn't sort of believe it. So all the time, sort of Hank and Earl have to try and sort of show him the evidence and show him the belief he's faced before he really believes in what they're saying and really believes, because he doesn't think maybe that the law can be sort of two-handed in terms of people that around him could be mischeating or up to no good.
Well, he was a traditionally trained police officer. I mean, you know, there are rules, there are limits, and there are, you know, boundaries, and, you know, your personal feelings are always secondary to your job in the law. And that's who he was. I mean, you know, and he was always shocked when people took things personally, because it's not personal. It's the law. You abide by the law. And that's what life is about, right?
And I suppose, Bill, in terms of the opening scenes of National Security, where you have the shootout and where Hank sort of loses his partner, and some stories like that would start off when you think there's a killing or something like that, and you think to yourself, right, this is not serious, but you never sort of felt that bit of real sort of sadness or shock or the emotions with sort of Hank losing his character. You always felt that it was a comedy even from the beginning, and that's very rare to have a killing at the start of a movie and a burial, and it's almost not feeling like a tragedy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you know, the things about great movies, you know, they make movies like that are great comedies. Even if you go back to silent movies, you know, that were comedies, they make you laugh and they make you feel. Now that sounds like a simple statement, but you know, it includes great writing and great directing. What I'm saying is that to do one, to make you feel, that's a hard job. But to make you laugh and to make you feel at the same time, that takes craft and skill.
Yeah, and I suppose one thing, Bill, about movies is always the it's always the cast as a whole that sort of makes the movie, and you have to sort of believe in sort of every character, and you have to sort of feel that sense of anticipation when every character is on the screen. Not just the main two characters who turn to be Steve Zahn and Martin Lawrence, but particularly Eric Roberts' character, Colm Feore's character, your character. You almost got that sense of anticipation, what's going to happen next in terms of these characters. You're almost intrigued with the bad guys as much as you were intrigued with the good guys. And in terms of your character, could he stray to the bad side? Was he what you see is what you get with this character? And it was always a sort of mystery playing in terms of your character, in terms of were you as truthful as what you appeared to be, and obviously you showed that you were, but obviously other opponents showed that they didn't. But it left the audience that sort of mystery about your character, whether he was on the side of good or evil throughout the story, before it's revealed at the end that he is on the side of good.
Yeah, but that's not the acting, that's the writing. You know, no matter how good an actor you are, without great writing, you don't have anything. I mean, it's those are writers that came together and put together the storyline and the character arcs in a brilliant way, I thought. And that's why the film with the director came out the way it was, and people still talk about it because, it had a relevance, it had comedy, it was about something that people could identify with. It wasn't just jokes, and it wasn't just action. They put together, stories of people that the audience could relate to and put it within a comic structure.
I suppose that, Bill, you've been in an awful lot of projects and movies and iconic movies in your time, from Commando to Predator to other sort of epic sort of movies in generation. But in terms of national security, do you always get a sense of joy when you see something like that in terms of real comedy? That you can go to work and almost if you can get a sense of laugh and sort of enjoyment when you see the jokes and the script and you sort of see the scene. Does it almost feel like amusing to yourself, and just say you always on set and screens like that, hey, this is really funny, I'm really enjoying it. I'm finding it hard not to laugh myself.
Well, Martin Lawrence set the mood of the film and the set. When you went on set, he made you laugh. He was always prepared, and he always gave 1,000%. So, he kind of set the standard for things, and it was a great pleasure working with him. He was fun, he was funny, and he was just a good actor and a great comedian. So at that time he was at the top of his game, and we all, were just a pleasure working with him.
And in terms of the reaction, in terms of for the first time seeing back to the finished project, that sort of premiere, were you sort of blown away by it? Did you have a feeling while you were shooting that, yeah, this is going to be really good? Would you always get a sense of enjoyment when you see the finished product back and you say, yeah, you know what, this really stands up in terms of what I've been involved in. I know myself that this is going to be a real success, and I can sit down maybe myself and really enjoy this movie?
Well, the premiere screenings in which, you see it for the first time, you never know how it's going to turn out. But when you see the audience's response to it, and they're laughing and they're feeling things, it gives you a sense of great satisfaction to be a part of something that makes people laugh and feel and enjoy together. I mean, and that's something with this COVID situation, I mean, I just enjoyed sitting in darkness with strangers I don't know and having a common experience. I hope there's a time in our future, for our sake and our children's sake, when theater comes back, because right now, it's not, it's not there. And I hope it comes back.
Yeah, and I suppose, Bill, in terms of national security and in terms of its relevance to the times, and I suppose one thing about great comedy movies, they stand on their own in terms of what generation they've been out, whether it's 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010. I think of great comedy movies like Anchorman, sort of Step Brothers. You had oh, some of Steve Martin's classics back in the early sort of 90s as well, and some of those sort of movies that you can watch them again and again over time. And I think that you almost feel like if you go making sequels, you're sort of damaging the product, you're sort of taking away from it. And National Security was a one-off movie, and do you think that it always stood up like that? We've seen what in terms of movies like Anchorman, a sequel was made, and it obviously wasn't nowhere near as successful as the first movie. When you hit really a real good sort of comedy movie like that, are you best off leaving it untouched if it's that really good?
Well, if a sequel can tell this same story in a as good or better way, but I think people were satisfied with the one-off. They just loved the film, that film. And I'm sure people wanted to see Martin come back and do something else. But for the most part, for me, just that one film, and it was just well done, well written, well acted, and well directed. The music was great. I mean, it's like, it's not an easy thing to do. And, for example, I've seen Predator 1, 2, and 3, and I was in Predator 1, but not because I was in it, but because it was so well crafted. Predator 1 is my favorite of all the Predators because it was so well constructed, so well written, acted, directed, produced. The music was great. I mean, I'm just saying that something should not be touched.
Yeah, very much so, Bill. I agree. You only have to look at the Die Hard franchise. Of 1, 2, and 3 were sort of classics, and then afterwards it sort of they just wore out the sort of product very much so. But in terms of being involved in sort of movies, and when a comedy project comes around, is that sometimes more challenging than a serious movie or a sort of movie that's sort of hard hitting or very deep sense of nature? Is comedy sometimes, is it very hard to come off maybe 2 or 3 serious movies and then go into a comedy movie like National Security, or is it sometimes for an actor like yourself is it a welcome relief to go and really have a laugh going into sets? Because sometimes as actors you touch on serious topics or serious demanding grueling sort of movies. When a project like National Security comes along, is this almost a weight off the shoulder?
Well, variety and diversity for an actor is always a wonderful thing, because you don't want to just be a flatline actor who just can do one thing. You want to be somebody who can be versatile, and that the industry sees you that way. So I was glad to get the opportunity. I was very happy with the actors that were involved in the writing, and so I looked at it as an opportunity.
And I suppose, Bill, lastly, we're running out of time. The last sort of question before I let you go, and I suppose I always finish my interviews in this type of question mode. But let's say, for example, they wrote out a sort of a dialogue or a sort of dictionary for national security, an encyclopedia, and they put your character, Lieutenant Washington, in it. And they left 2 blank sentences underneath. And they came to you, Bill Duke, and they said to you, having portrayed Lieutenant Washington, we want you to write those 2 sentences. What would you like those 2 sentences to read to sum up Lieutenant Washington? What type of a man was he?
As the kind of character that he was?
Very much so, yeah.
I would say that he was a police officer that did his job and understood the people he was working with, but at the same time enjoyed what he did.
Bill Duke, an absolute pleasure talking to you. I know I think it's been 4 years since the last time we spoke, but Bill, an absolute pleasure talking to you on the airwaves again this evening, reliving back what this week's cult classic movie. As we said, we delved back into the ball 17 years back to 2003. real comedy gold, national security. Bill Duke, you played a very much a prominent role in it as Lieutenant Washington. Thanks for taking the time today to relive your memories of that sort of what was a movie for its time. And Bill Duke, many more to come, no doubt, in 2021. But for the moment, Bill, take care and please God, this isn't the last time we speak to each other.
Thank you, my friend. All the best, and thank you for the interview.
Cheers. Thank you, Bill.
All right.